So we just saw Nonstop, the new Liam Neeson thriller suspense Snakes on a Plane 2 Liam Neeson remake. And real quick, if you want the non-spoiler version of what we thought, whether you should go see the movie or not, I would say this is a C. This is a good movie. If you're into suspense, if you're into mysteries, this had me going all the way through. Totally enjoyed the movie. Was completely engaged with the mystery, trying to figure out what was going on. Really enjoyed it. Can't say too much negative about it without going into spoiler territory, but it was a very solid movie, one of the best I've seen so far this year.
I don't think I liked it as much as you did.
Okay.
But I liked it. I would recommend it to most people. If I had to say yes or no, I would probably say yes. I thought it was a little bit... I didn't think that there was quite enough tension there. I thought it could have maybe used a little bit of a tighter edit, because I felt like until the last 20 minutes, which the last 20 minutes were actually really good, but until that point I felt like, boy, I'm just not really feeling the tension with this one. They needed, I don't know if it was just a tighter edit or different scripting or what they needed, but it felt like it was just lacking a little bit something for what I would expect from a thriller. I thought that it had some good parts. I will say, I knew the entire way. I was like, oh, I know who's behind it. I know who's behind it. I know who's behind it. And I was wrong.
Yeah.
So I will give it that, because I did not really see
the mystery is decent.
Yeah, the mystery is decent. In that way, overall it's a little preposterous, but I think if you know anything about this movie, you're going to understand that it's preposterous going in. You're not going to think, oh wow, this is going to be a very realistic story.
But it doesn't get silly.
No, it doesn't.
There's things that, like, you have to suspend disbelief, but it doesn't get completely ridiculous.
And in some way, silly is maybe not the right word, but I actually think the movie would have been a little bit better if it had taken itself just a tiny bit less seriously and maybe had a little bit more humor in it. There was like one or two parts where I chuckled, but I think that it could have. I think if it had like really ratcheted up like the tension, like I said earlier, and then kind of relieved that tension with a little bit more humor, I would have enjoyed the movie a lot more. Instead, what it was just really kind of dry throughout for most of it, and then a pretty good action-packed last 20 minutes.
So somebody looking for like a Die Hard style of like action humor, that kind of thing.
Yeah, with the little mystery thrown in, more than Die Hard.
This isn't necessarily their movie.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But if you're looking for more of just a straight up, because it did take itself extremely seriously. I expected there to be, so we're basically giving this like a 1.5 recommendation. I think, from here on out we'll kind of talk a little bit more about things that happen in the movie. Without getting to, I'm not going to tell you who the killer is or any of that kind of stuff. But, Liam Neeson and the snakes on the plane.
I really like Snakes on a Plane. I preferred Snakes on a Plane to this, even though there was no mystery in Snakes on a Plane. Yes, because in the Snakes on a Plane, the snakes did it. But be that what it may.
I kind of have a sick fascination with snakes on a plane too.
Yeah, me too.
That's just kind of the way things go. This movie, I did not expect a whole lot from this movie. I saw the trailer and I thought the trailer was either giving away the entire movie and just the worst trailer you could put in front of this movie, or it was doing what it actually did, which was it gave away the first 15 minutes. It gives you the premise of the movie. The trailer just basically, it makes Julianne Moore the prime suspect. That's basically what the trailer does, and that's kind of what happens in the first 15 minutes or so of the movie. Like, when things just get started, she's the first person you really encounter in the plane, and they do widen the net of suspects from there. It is very... It's not morose or melodramatic or anything like that, but it is, like John said, it's very serious. Everything's done. So, to me, like, and you say that the last 20 minutes were really tense and all that. I felt the tension the whole movie. I was just like, oh my God, what is going to happen next? And the only thing that I found problematic was the opening. They were using this effect where they would like purposefully unfocus everything but Liam Neeson.
Okay, good. It wasn't just me.
So he's walking through the airport at the beginning, and they blur out everything around him, and it's supposed to be sort of the he's drunk effect. But they do a little bit of camera shaking, and right at the very beginning, it made me a little sick. And thankfully, that kind of went away after a bit. The only other thing it took me a little while to get into. Once it got past showing me everything I'd seen in the trailer, which thankfully it was done doing that after about 10 or 15 minutes, then it was like, this is a solid story. And there are multiple, it's a mystery suspense movie. It lasts over an hour. There's multiple twists. There's multiple twists and turns and things that go on. There's red herrings. There's all that kind of stuff that you would expect in a mystery. The very first twist was awesome, and I was sold on the movie from that point forward. I was in. And
yeah, I thought that was a good twist. I did not see that coming. Yeah.
The last, like you said, probably the last 2 minutes is where it went into like total suspension of disbelief territory.
The last 2 minutes?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not like the last 2 minutes before.
Okay.
The epilogue of the movie.
Yeah,
the last 2 minutes of the suspense is where it got into like, okay, and then it was just kind of like, okay, the quicker the credits come, the happier we're going to be, and it finished up pretty well. So, yeah, like 90% of this movie is fantastic, and the rest is just okay.
Yeah, I thought they tried to do a lot of things with it. I mean, I thought they tried to make it a really good suspense movie, and like I said earlier, and I think we disagree on this front, there probably wasn't quite enough tension in my mind for it until the end. I also thought that they tried to make it an action movie to some extent, but until the end, there's really not a lot of action movies. So Dale, like you were saying, it's not the Die Hard movie, which is fine. I would prefer a suspense movie to an action movie most days. I also thought they tried to put in a little bit of social commentary with some post 9/11 references kind of scattered throughout the movie, and they almost really didn't go far enough, in my opinion, for them to really kind of broach on that. It was just sort of like, yeah, we're just going to sprinkle a little bit of that in, but we're going to play it really, really safe and not do anything that might be considered, too out there, too crazy, too offensive, anything like that. We're just going to basically be very, very middle of the road, but we can at least say, hey, we're relevant. And I kind of wish they'd gone further in that way, or just not done it at all.
Yeah, and I'm trying to say without going too far into spoilers and that too, but
I mean throughout. I'm talking about throughout the movie. I mean, like even if you talk, and this isn't really a spoiler, but because there are a bunch of different characters on the plane, and there are characters who have, let's just say, differing opinions of the various sort of minor and supporting characters in the play. They have differing opinions and kind of butt heads a little bit just because of various different social and ethnical backgrounds, and it's sort of like, that was interesting, and that would be great social commentary, and you actually would really probably run into that in a situation like this, but they didn't really play it up enough that I felt it was worth it. They should have actually made that, because that to me was a very compelling story that they could have really gone somewhere with, but they really chose to back off that.
Yeah, so I guess, and I think I've done the calculation. I've figured out what the math trick is to say what I want to say without spoiling things. There's some obvious 9/11 style red herring stuff that happens early enough in the movie, and the very first time you see it in the movie, you're like, yeah, that's a red herring, and it's an obvious red herring. It is not going to be the person you expect. Kind of, this isn't that cut and dried of a movie.
It's not 24.
I felt like, yeah, exactly, and I felt like when they did get to the point where they started talking about, when they just came right out and said 9/11, blah, 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 security, blah, 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 this is how, they blew this whole thing open. There's a part of it that was like, if we take this too seriously, this movie is either really preachy or it's a real downer.
Yeah.
Because they're literally saying that you are not safe on aircraft, and you're not safe, period. That somebody's going to come kill you wherever you're sleeping tonight, and there's just nothing you can do about it.
I'm not going to sleep well tonight.
Liam
Okay.
Neeson will save me. He'll be fine.
Total different tangent here, but there is one thing that happens related to the mystery about 3/4 of the way through, and I won't say it here for spoilers. You may or may not know which part I'm talking about, but I was kind of like, really, it's already very preposterous, but that's bordering on Agatha Christie territory. It involves a restroom. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about? I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay. Not really, but
But it was just kind of like,
oh yeah.
you know.
I know
what
what you mean now.
Yes, and
yeah.
it's kind of like, really? I think I actually probably did read that in an Agatha Christie novel once, and it worked there, but it doesn't really work in the Liam Neeson Die Hard wannabe movie. That's not really a Die Hard wannabe.
Yeah. Well, and I, talking about comparing it to other movies, I think a lot of people that saw the trailer, myself included, kind of thought, is this just Taken 3 on a plane? Because it just kind of looked like that style of movie. But it's less of, Taken is a Luc Besson. There's catchy dialogue. There's memorable, one-liners and things like that happen in it. This movie did have there was kind of like a father-daughter subplot, which is kind of common in like the Taken movies and a lot of Luc Besson things, but it's very minimal here. It's just kind of a side thing.
I'm actually, can I expand on that for just?
Yeah.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because one thing I thought was interesting was there are all these various characters in it, and a few of them you get sort of a moment near the end where it's like that character has their defining speech, and it's like, I'm going to talk right now, and you're going to, in like one paragraph, I'm going to sum up everything you need to know about my character.
Yeah.
And when they did that with Julianne Moore's character, I was actually like, that's kind of an interesting story. I'm kind of compelled by that. When they did it with Liam Neeson's character, I was like, I was kind of more interested in him when we didn't really know everything that had happened in his life, and it just felt a little bit, spoiler alert, it was a sad story, but it felt a little bit trite almost, that it was kind of like, yeah, that's kind of the expected story I would have expected them to go with.
Well, I mean, but I don't think this spoils anything because the first couple of minutes of the movie is him sitting in the car,
Right.
and you're like, he's drinking, he goes on duty. Why is he drinking? And the second you think, why is he drinking, they show a picture of his daughter. So
Right.
you know there's something that's up there.
Right. But I mean, I almost felt like we could have just seen that bit and not known every single particular about what had gone on between him and his
Yeah.
daughter. But when they explained it, it was just kind of like, I thought it would be a little more interesting if they just hadn't explained that. I mean, I think just leave a little bit to the audience's imagination. But in some
Yeah.
ways, I felt like this was a movie that, just like they're not going to push some political boundaries, they're not going to leave anything to the audience's imagination,
Right.
because they were trying a little bit too hard to make it applicable to anyone and everybody who might want to go see it.
I would say if anything, the movie holds you by the hand pretty hard.
Yes. Literally, in some senses, near the end. You'll see that when you see it.
But there are, I mean, and like what I was talking about with, he's drinking. Why is he sad? Oh, that's why he's sad.
Right.
There's a number of things that happen like that, and it's really, part of it is like you can hear an audience member in the back of the theater somewhere saying, why is he drinking?
Right.
Why is he sad? And then they're answering the question, and I typically don't care for a lot of that going on in a movie that, like I have a brain and it works and I can, figure out what's going on. But I think here it was more for, one, keeping the story really brief,
Right.
like keeping it to just the absolute minimum that we needed to move forward, but also so that if the stuff about Liam Neeson is a surprise to you, if they don't show you that scene at the beginning with him drinking and being a bad marshal at the beginning of the movie, then that twist kind of will make you question, whoa, is he really who he says he is? Is he really, the good guy in this, or are they about to, reveal that he's actually been the bad guy all along, and that kind of thing?
I cannot speak to how, I mean, I think I've used the word preposterous at least 3 times now, but I cannot speak to some of the technological things that happen, both with mobile communications and with airplanes.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're real. I don't think some of the stuff that they do in this is real. If it is, I apologize to the airline industry. You have my apology. the airline industry.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll never show this movie on an airline.
I don't think this is the kind of. I don't think this is a realistic depiction of something that could happen. I think this is.
I think the fact checkers phoned a few things in.
Yeah, it's just shy of science fiction. Like it's right between reality and science fiction. The stuff that goes on in the movie. They show a lot of the stuff in the trailer with him sort of on the little, 10-year-old smartphone that I'm sure air marshals are, using the world over.
I will say, I thought that their use of text messages in this, because he's getting text messages throughout, and the way that they come up on screen, I thought it was actually. I'm not saying I'd never seen it before, because I think I've seen a few things like that, but I thought it was a pretty good effective use of using the entire
Sherlock's
screen.
kind of the epitome of that.
Yeah?
That was the first place that really
I've actually never seen
they
that.
would throw text up on a screen.
But
like
I mean,
that.
I like
At
how
least
they
that I've seen.
that they kind of swirl around the guy, and at one point the phone screen breaks, and it's this thing you see, it's kind of broken, and I just thought it was more clever than other parts of the movie. I thought it was a little bit more artsy than I would expect for this movie, and I actually kind of like that.
The visual effects, with the phone thing were nice. It also did a really good job of, an international flight's a pretty claustrophobic place to set a suspense movie,
Yeah. No, I thought that was good. The other thing I will say is, if you watch Downton Abbey, you will see Michelle Dockery, and you will learn that she is not always mean in every part. In some roles, she's just very boring. So that was interesting for me to learn. So she can either play mean or boring, and maybe someday she will play a mean, boring person. I guess that's Downton Abbey, though.
Yeah, she was mostly just kind of a frightened rabbit in this, which... Julianne Moore was kind of more the lead female character in the whole thing. But yeah, I think I said something before the movie about how that if Lady Mary is like Lady Mary in real life, if that actress is that way in real life, she would never get a job.
Yeah,
no one would like her.
If you had put Lady Edith in there, I'd tell you, Lady Edith would have solved it in 2 minutes. She would have been like, we're not having none of that. And it would have been taken care of. You put Lady Mary in there, you're going to have problems.
Right.
I'm sorry.
But anybody that looks like Michael Palin would disappear forever.
That's true.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.